of natural rights which are inherent to all human beings and cannot be taken away by any government or authority. Okay. The 20th century uh, saw the development of international human rights laws and institutions. Like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948, setting out a common standard of human rights for all people and nations. Since then, there have been several treaties and conventions that have been created to further promote and protect human rights. Example including the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, and the Covenant on the Rights of the Child. However, despite the progress made in the field of human rights, there are still many challenges and violations that occur around the world. Um, these includes issues such as discrimination, inequality, poverty, and violence. Um, like uh, so, do we have any update on Pranav sir, Aryan?
Not, sir. Not yet.
Could you just call him? Could you just call him and ask whether or not he is going to join?
Sure, sir. Sure. Doing.
All right. So the history of human rights is a long and evolving one, right? Spanning centuries of social, political, and philosophical developments. Although there is still much work to be done to fully realize the vision of universal human rights. It is important that we continue to uphold and protect these fundamental values and principles.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. I think you muted yourself.
no, I just unmuted it. Okay, you're audible. Am I not audible?
Yeah, sir. You are audible. Okay, sir. What if we take questions from interns until Sir Pranav arrives or joins here?
So I don't think if we started taking questions right now, it is going to, too long time. Uh, we will be not finished with all. So it will be better that if we take questions at the end of this session, right?
Right, sir. Right.
So why did we start talking with interns instead we just weirdly, waiting for Pranav sir to arrive and get started with this. So I'm gonna pick someone to have some words, some encouraging perhaps. Mm, okay, let
Yeah,
me
sure,
pick
sir.
someone.
Yeah.
Okay,
Any one of you want
do
to
we have,
talk or ask anything?
I have one name. I wanted to, do we have Anas Dhorjiwala? Okay, I think he is not there right now.
Anas, are
So
you there?
let me pick some.
Okay, okay, sir. Should I call anyone?
Okay. Please, Ryan, please proceed.
Okay. Uh,
Pick your best one. Okay.
okay. Aditi Saxena, are you there? Aditi Saxena.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, How are you?
Well, sir, I'm doing good.
Okay, what do you think about joining a human rights program, and what do you just think of this program, and anything what you want to ask? So please go ahead.
Mm,
Okay.
So, firstly, the reason of me joining this program is not so quintessential. It's being as a human and as a law student embarking upon my journey. So, this is something very imperative for me to actually broaden my horizon into, and that's why that was a keen interest of me joining this particular program that's dedicated specifically towards human rights and its development. And therefore I joined this program. And for me, it's more about contributing in substantive ways rather than just going through theory and actually going out
Okay.
to the ground and having things doing and gaining practical experience per se.
That's very nice.
Appreciate it.
That's very nice. Exactly. Exactly. Um, well, let me pick someone else. Thank you. Who was it? Aditi. Thank you so much, Aditi, for responding so politely. Thank you. Let
Thank you.
me take someone else. Okay. Okay. Um,
Okay, should I take next one? Mm,
all right. Go ahead, please.
Khushi Kajal, are you there? Khushi Kajal? I don't think so. She is there. Okay. Upsana Acharya, are you there?
Yes, I am there.
O-
All right.
Okay, okay. Go ahead, please. The same question.
Kajol. Yeah. What motivated you to join such program like this one?
Why did I join this program? That's the question, right?
Yes, what has motivated you to join this human rights program? Right for right.
Yeah, basically, when I was doing my LLB, we had a subject that is woman and child. So I was so keen in observing woman and child, right? Then after my degree, I went to do an internship in child welfare committee. There comes a lot of cases with women and children, and most of the cases are referred to human rights. And thus, I got an intention and like an interest in this human right. So it also it also helped me to read more stories. So I got such interest.
Yes, yes, that's very nice. That's very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Rian, again, just go on and pick one more.
Sure, sir. And Shivani, are you there? Miss Shivani?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Sir, sorry, sir.
Same
Actually,
question,
I am
Shivani. What
not in the
motivated you
proper
to
place
join
to
a
answer
human
this
rights
question,
program?
sir. I'm traveling right now.
Well, we are getting some glitches at your end, Shivani.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Should we take next?
All right, all right.
क्या बोल रहा है?
Give her
Okay.
one more chance. Let Shivani speak. Shivani, could you just ensure those background noises got eliminated?
Yes, sir. Sorry for that, sir.
Okay, okay. You are audible. You may speak, please. All right. Okay. Shivani, I guess you have not a sustainable stable internet connection. Okay. So let me proceed and take another one. Okay. Shweta Tyagi. Hi, Shweta. Could you just
Hello, sir.
unmute yourself? Okay, let me know your story. Why you preferred this one, this internship program.
So very good evening, first of all. Uh,
Okay,
as I'm a LLB student and I'm in my final semester, having my
okay,
specialization in international law, where I learned about the human rights and humanitarian rights, genocides, and
okay,
different rights we have, and got to know about the human rights, that these are the basic rights that belongs to a normal, simple human being. So
okay,
after this, I joined the Human Rights Commission for my internships, for 3 months internships as a National Human Rights Commission, and there I studied the live cases, which really
okay.
motivated me to gain more experience and more knowledge about this particular field. And I'm actively participating with the State Human Rights Commission also right now.
Yes, that's great. That's great. Like, okay, we have Pranav sir here. Pranav sir, over to you, please. We were eagerly waiting for you, and we were just having this, we were just giving some interns to introduce themselves. So, sir, please continue.
Very nice of you, Zair. I'm really sorry. I would beg pardon that I was not on time. I had some prior engagements. But then, yeah, as of now, what do you gaze it from the interns? How are they, Uzair? Could you please brief me?
Like, according to me, they are fantastic, and they seems very enthusiastic. They all are filled with hope, and they all want to gain some develop their skills, right?
Mhm.
They
I
want
see.
to promote human rights standards in our
Mhm.
society.
Okay. That's something fairly good on their part, I believe. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, sir,
So
please.
what personally I feel as if, since I am already late and I should not delay further ado. So with this, why do I see only 50 students or maybe 60 students there? I was informed that more than 100 students are going to join. Rehan, would you come on it?
Yes, sir. Some students have reason of internet connection, or many of them are
Hmm.
not available today. But I'm
Okay.
marking attendance, and
Yeah, yeah. Please,
we'll
please, please do
go
that,
accordingly.
because that's,
Sure, sir.
yeah, yeah, that shows their seriousness towards the course also, and accordingly they will be graded also, right? I
Right, sir.
hope
Exactly.
that will not be a thing which is pardoned, right? Because I hope we are keeping something students who are the best or maybe the most attentive ones, and we will be also grading them on that.
Yes, sir.
That's nice. That's nice. So yeah, I think very good evening to everyone who is present over here, and I think I'll record the session for the benefit of those who have not joined. But this will not happen every other time, right? This time, since I'm giving the benefit of doubt that
So
people
the
are
session is
maybe,
live on YouTube.
oh, that means that I don't have to record, right?
Sure, sir.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
that's
exactly. You do not have to record it at
that's
your
easy
end.
on my part now. Thanks a lot for informing it.
Thank you,
Yeah, yeah.
sir.
Yeah. So, yeah, should I begin the session then, Ryan?
Sure, sir. Let me introduce you, sir,
Yeah,
first.
please, please, please.
So, welcome, Mr. Pranav Jha. We are thrilled to have you join us today as the chairperson of this session. With your impressive background in law and experience as a junior research consultant at National Human Rights Commission India, we are certain that your insights and perspectives will be invaluable to our discussions. We appreciate your dedication to academic excellence and are honored to have you here with us today. Thank you, sir. Thank you for having us and joining us today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Ryan. That's a really nice word. Maybe I don't know if I'm worthy of it, but then, yeah, thank you so much. With this, I think let's start this. And in between, if anyone has question, kindly settle down. We'll try to answer it at the end when I'm done with my session, right? So I hope that you have been briefed about today's session, and if not, then I'll try to help you out. So today we are going to actually learn about the historical perspective of human rights. Just to give a mind map, how I'm going to maintain the flow is. For example, first I'm going to introduce about the human rights, maybe by defining human rights and its importance. Then I'm going to maybe relate it with the historical part, as I stated, with the ancient civilization and the origin of the human rights. Then I'm going to maybe enlighten about the human rights and the natural rights, which are also inalienable to any human being per se, for that matter. And then I'm going to talk about the evolution of human rights back in 20th century, how it evolved, and how at present we are actually facing the trends, and from where the maybe the sources of, or maybe the origin has come. And then I'm going to talk about the current challenges, and also going to talk about the future of what human rights are going to be in maybe in coming future. With this, I think that I'll try to conclude with some of my suggestions and opinions, and then I'll invite your queries accordingly. I hope that works with everyone, right? Anyone, please come up.
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. Nice to hear that, Shweta, from you. So, with this, just I'll right to maybe rightly get into the details of it. Uh, any like just to begin about it, I hope that Uzair have maybe slightly touched on human rights. Just to begin it, any one of you, please introduce what human rights is. Then I'll maybe start with my maybe session. Any one of you, please.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Also, sir, I believe that human rights are natural rights that come into existence as soon as we come to exist. Like, it is something which exists from time immemorial.
Mm-hmm.
It is something which cannot be taken away by any legislation or perhaps even any question of law per se. And they stems naturally, even if there is no provision in the constitution per se of any country, we have that right. And I think it now stems from UDHR, which was a document formally signed uh, in 1950, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think that you're also going to the details of it. Very nice that you have a idea of it. I know that every other person might be have an idea of human rights, but then let me get this take this privilege to maybe deal it in detail. With this, just to start with it, I would like to quote a very nice quotation by Nelson Mandela. It was stated that to deny any persons their human right is actually is to challenge their very existence or their very humanity. So I think that this is such a grave thing that you cannot take it from anyone. I mean, no one is authorized to take it from you. It's yours, right? So let me start with the definition and the importance of human rights. So, as far as my understanding is concerned, human rights, as rightly stated by Mohammed, that these are the basic rights and the rights and the freedoms that are entitled to every individual, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or any other characteristics. So these rights are very inherent to the human beings and are very essential for their survival and the dignity. As far as human rights is concerned, they are protected by the national as well as international laws, and accordingly, if there is any violations, then these rights you can be held punishable according to the law. Now, the importance of human rights can be overstated. Like, it can be explained more. Like, why are these human rights given it to you? Maybe the reason is to ensure that all the individuals are treated with dignity and respect and have the access of the basic necessity of life, such as roti, kapda, makan, right? Food, shelter, medical health care, these things. So human rights are to basically protect the individuals from these certain basic rights, be it protection from discrimination, persecutions, or any form of oppression. So why these rights are important? Because without human rights, individuals would be at the mercy of those who are at the power, right? And no recourse could if their rights were violated. No recourse is available if such rights is violated. So this is a very basic detail about what human rights is. Now maybe I have slightly touched on the idea of it. Now let's get into the depth of it. Just a second. Someone is saying I'm not. What is it? I missed. Someone was saying that I am not audible or what? Am I audible? Anybody please come on and say.
Yes, sir, you
Yes,
are
sir, you are
audible.
audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. Like I couldn't see those messages which were popping up. Rehan, did you see the message? What was it?
No, sir, there
Fine,
wasn't
I think.
any. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Let me go ahead. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, yeah, I'm going to talk about the ancient civilizations and the origin of human rights. So kindly, please be attentive because this is something which you, if you know it's well and good, and if you do not, then please maybe know from now. So the concept of human rights dates back to the ancient civilization where these laws and codes were actually created to protect the rights of the individual. Let me give you an example to maybe take a clarity. For example, there was a code of Humambarai, so which was created in the ancient Babylon in 1754 BC, which was the first legal code that protected the rights of the individual. Then, in ancient Greece, the concept of citizenship was linked with the certain rights and freedoms of such as right to participate, in political process, then right to fair trial, and these set of rights were accordingly granted as the people realized the sense of togetherness, sense of their right, and what is right and what is wrong. Then these Romans also recognized the importance of protecting individual rights such as right to property, right to fair trial. These are some of the set of rights which, with a phased manner, they started to get a recognition, and these individuals started to realize that these are our rights and we should be given this in any other form or in any form that is possible. Raj says, "Sorry to be late. I'm not excusing you. You had to be early because I myself was a late comer. So please do not do this again." Yeah. So now, since I'm talking about the origin, we should also talk about how Indian perspective dealt about the human rights thing. So in India, you all must be familiar about the concept of ahimsa. Ahimsa means non-violence. So it was a central to the philosophy of Jainism and also influenced the development of human rights in this region. So as far as the Buddhist emperor Ashoka is concerned, he also promulgated edicts to the and protected the rights of the subjects. So we are the subjects, right? Including be it the religious freedom, right to fair trial, and as these processes, or as the people more learnt about their personal or private right, they started to question about it, and they similarly got their rights. Now, overall, what do you understand from the ancient civilization is they have recognized the importance of protecting the certain rights and freedoms of the citizen. And although I must admit that these rights were often limited to a privileged few initially, right? It was not until the enlightenment of from 17th century to 18th century that the concept of human right began to take more universal and egalitarian concept or the egalitarian character. I hope you know the meaning of egalitarian. Egalitarian is just that you see everyone with a common, parallels. कोई छोटा बड़ा नहीं है. Everyone is similar. There should be no discrimination for that matter. Yeah, you're right, Aditi. It's equal. So this is a short crisp about the ancient civilization and the origin of the human right. Now we are talking about we are going to talk about the enlightenment and the concept of natural rights. I hope that there are some students of law from our internship program. They might have read about the natural law in their jurisprudence. So it's very much similar to that which I'm going to talk about. Yeah. So when we talk about the Enlightenment, how did it come? So the Enlightenment was a period of intellectual and cultural transformation that occurred in Europe and North America during 17th and 18th century. This period saw the rise of the new ideas and the philosophies that created or maybe that challenged the traditional ways of thinking and actually paved the way to the modern form of human rights. Because initially there were very less people who were actually knowing their rights. But then there came a lot of philosophers into it, a lot of political thinkers, and they did brainstorming and they paved out something very, basic, which had to be acquired by every other citizen. Then this enlightenment or the thinkers, such as, maybe I'll mention some of those since I've talked about the concept of jurisprudential thoughts. So you might be knowing about the John Locke, Hobbes, Rousseau. These are some of the political thinkers who had very nice perspective about the human rights. So just to mention about these political thinkers, so John Locke and Rousseau, they laid the foundations of the modern human rights by developing the concept of natural rights, which I'm talking about. So, according to this concept, all the individuals are entitled to certain and inalienable rights, and which are not guaranteed by the governments, but they are inherent to their nature as human beings. So, what he had a very broader picture of human rights. So he's saying that it is not necessary that laws or the codes or the rules or regulations, statute had to be mentioned that this is your right. So no one is going to inform you or let you know that who it is. Like, these four things are the only rights you are going to be granted. So these are inalienable and you had to get it from by birth, right? What about Locke? He gave an example of it. He stated that he argued that all individuals have the right to life, liberty, and property, and that the government are created to protect these rights, right? And he believed that individuals have the right to rebel against the government, and in case they fail to protect their rights, and this was a necessary check on the governmental power. That's why also you might be knowing that fundamental rights, when you claim these against the government, against the state, because state is subjected to protect your fundamental rights. Fundamental right is one of the aspect of human rights. Human right is a bigger perspective, right? What about Rousseau? Rousseau stated that, on the other hand, he argued that individuals have the right to freedom and equality, and these rights are to be protected by the states. He also believed that the government should be based on the principle of general will, right, which represents the common interest of the citizen rather than will of the few privileged individuals, which I initially talked about in the ancient time, that only few privileged people got that right as a power. But then, as these political thinkers came up, they started to pitch in the ideas which was universal in concept. Now, these ideas laid the foundation of modern human rights by recognizing the inherent dignity and worth of every individual, by establishing a framework for protecting the basic rights and freedom. Now, this concept of natural right also served as the basis of American Declaration of Independence and even the French Declaration of Rights of Men and Citizens. These both which were influential in development of the modern human rights I'm going to talk about. Sorry, Saban Khan. Okay, I think by mistake you had unmuted yourself. Yeah. Very nice, Anushka. You are saying that general will is a will of collaborative group, and to make a collaborative will, we need to do something. Very nice of you to comment. Yeah. Now, so overall, what the summary is, the Enlightenment was a crucial period in the development of the modern human rights, because as it challenged the traditional ways of thinking and also established a new framework for protecting the rights and freedoms of all individuals. Because change is something which is not acceptable by all who are at the power. They never want that who are at the weaker or the marginalized section will come to end, and they may tackle or maybe have that challenge, or may competition increase, right? So there are a lot of hurdles in between and getting that perception of that equality for all. But then that was a challenge. But yeah, thanks to these political thinkers, that they managed to make a way out of it. Now we are going to, since I stated that I'm going to give you a phase-wise description of how it's going to work, now we are going to talk about the evolution of human rights in 20th century. Till now we were struggling to maybe quantify it, that how important human right is, but now we are actually going to uh, see that how the process began, right? So in 20th century we saw a significant progress in the development and protection of human rights. If you talk about World War II, maybe the horrors of World War II, which included the Holocaust and other atrocities, which underscored the need for the universal human rights protection. This was a high time where people realized that now we are not going to settle down with ifs and buts. Now we need something very authentic, and we need something as a right, matter of right. Then in 1948, United Nations, in its General Assembly, United Nations General Assembly adopted the UDHR, which is Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which Mohammed was also talking about, right? Which established a universal framework for protecting the rights. Now, just to have a slight detail of UDHR, UDHR includes 30 articles, you must know, that basically outlines a wide range of human rights, or maybe the rights and the freedoms, including the right of life, liberty, security of a person, right to freedom of thought, conscience, religion, right to fair trial. So these are some of the very basic concepts which UDHR was entertaining and had pitched before the public. Now, just to go slightly detail of UDHR actually was followed by several international treaties, and that further expanded the rights and the protections, right? So then we came into purview about the ICCPR and the ICESCR. That is, ICCPR, what is the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And what is ICESCR? That is International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So these are the maybe the parts of from where UDHR has broken into, right? ICCPR and ICESCR, where these were adopted in 1966. Where, and apart from that, the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, we could talk about UNCEDAW, right, which was adopted in 1976. So these are some of the international covenants and conventions which actually came into parlance of the public, and then they started to recognize each and every right and in bits and pieces, so that nothing is missed. Now, in addition to this, the international treaties, regional human rights system were also established in Europe and even in America and in Africa, right? If I'm not wrong. So these European conventions on rights, human rights, that is ECHR, was adopted in 1950, while these American Convention on Human Rights were adopted in 1969. And this African Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights was adopted in 1981. Sorry. So why I'm talking about these rights and conventions? Because as I earlier stated, that there was a time we were struggling to define human rights, and soon after World War II, we all, maybe the thinkers, have realized the credibility of it, and they started to categorize it in different form, and in forms of be it conventions and statutes, they started to quantify it and very nicely try to collate all the information. Now I'm talking about why these treaties and regional systems have played a very critical or the crucial role in protecting the human rights around the world. They not only established a legally binding obligations for the government, they also try to protect and fulfill the human rights of all individuals in their jurisdictions. So most of the countries try to adopt these practices of protecting the human rights and giving it a priority. However, the evolution of the human rights, for obvious reasons, has not been without challenges. Human rights abuses still continue to occur around across the world, and the government have sometimes failed to uphold the obligations under the international and the regional human rights instrument, which is something which is not forgivable. Nevertheless, in the progress made in 20th century, we have been significant changes, and the development of international and the regional human rights system have helped to establish a universal framework for protection of human rights that is recognized and respected by the governments throughout the world. So, in summary, how I can maybe collate all the information is that in 20th century we saw significant process in the development of the protection of human rights first. Then, with the adoption of these international and the regional human rights treaties and the establishment of these various human rights systems, we tried to establish a chain of thought which actually tried to cover all the basic points of human rights perspective. Then, while these challenges remain, these documents, or mainly these developments, have helped to establish a universal framework for protecting the human rights that have been recognized and respected by the government throughout the world. I think I'll take a 5 minutes pause because I'm continuously getting a call from my mom. So just give me maybe 5 minutes. I'll just pick my phone, and then we are going to deal about the current challenges and the future of human rights, and then we are going to conclude, and then the question can come in. Can you guys please excuse me for 5 minutes?
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, Rehan, you can take the questions.
Yes, sir. So meanwhile, I'm going to mark the attendance. So please, everyone, write your name in the comment section, so can track it and get the record. So please go ahead and please do not ask any question in between these names, so I can mark these attendance easily. Please.
Hi, I'm sorry to keep you all wait. Yeah, I am seeing that all are writing their names. Is the attendance going on?
Yes, sir.
Oh, nice, nice, nice.
Excuse me,
Maybe,
sir. Hello.
sorry. Yes, Vinita.
So meanwhile, the attendance is taken. May I ask one question?
Could you please, it's a request that at the end, maybe I'll try to finish. Maybe I'm in the flow and I don't want to break it. I hope you understand that.
Okay, okay, sir. No problem.
So sorry about that, but yeah.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. No, no issues.
Please keep it right, maybe written it down somewhere so that we can deal it, right? So yeah,
Well,
let's make.
actually, the question was with regard to the things that you said. So just wanted to ask. There's no issue. I'll ask at the end.
Yeah, yeah, please bear with me. There are more two topics to be dealt. Then I'll entertain all the questions. So it will be
Sure,
discrimination
sure,
on the part of others, right?
sure.
Yeah. Now we are going to basically deal about the reality. That is the current challenges and the future of human rights, which is at stake, I believe. But then, let's be optimistic. So, despite of the progress made in the development and the protection of human rights, there are significant challenges that remains in 21st century. And when I talk about the one of the biggest challenges is the rise of the authoritarianism, or and the erosion of the democratic institution and the values in in many parts of the world, like some of the cultural ethos and some of the very basic tenets which helped us to grow this far. This is at a stake, which is very disturbing as well. If we talk about maybe some countries, then I cannot ignore countries like China, Russia, Turkey. So these governments have actually cracked down on the civil society and the independent media and restricted the freedom of speech and expression, freedom of assembly. They have actually undermined the very concept of rule of law. This has actually led to a shrinking space of human rights defenders and the activists, they and have made it more difficult to hold the government accountable for the human rights violations. Another major challenge which I can maybe relate is the impact of the technology on human rights. Like, everything has a pros and a con. So here comes that con. While technology has a potential to to be a powerful tool of advancing the human right, but then it can also be used to violate them. Here the government and the private companies have used surveillance technology to monitor and suppress the dissent, and while the social media have been used to spread this hate speech and disinformation, and a lot of things which maybe it's very disturbing in the lieu of technological advancement. As far another aspect to it is, when I'm going to talk about it, the climate change issue or the environmental degradation are also some of the very emerging, as significant human rights challenge. Like if you guys are following G20 summit, climate change was also one of the very crucial thing to be dealt about. Why? The impact of the climate change, including the extreme weather events, maybe by rising the level of sea, loss of biodiversity, disproportionately, it's going to affect the most vulnerable populations, including the indigenous people, women, children, and moreover, in addition to it, the exploitation of the natural resources often leads to violation of human rights, including the right of indigenous people, which I already talked about, in their lands and their resources. So, how to address these challenges? So, in order to address these challenges, there need to be a renewed commitment of human rights by these governments, civil societies, and individuals around the world. How we can do it? This includes by strengthening the democratic institutions and the values, and protecting the human rights defenders and these activists, and by regulating the use of these technology to ensure that it is not violating the human rights, rather helping the human rights to make the rights more accessible, right? In addition to it, there is a need to recognize the independence between the human rights and other global issues, including the climate change and the environmental degradation, which I was talking about. So these require a holistic approach to human rights, and that right that takes into account the economic, social, economic, environmental factor, and impact or the enjoyment of human rights. So these all factors have to be taken into consideration, and that cannot be ignored at any stage. So to summarize it again, while these process have been made in the development and protection of human rights, there are significant challenges which we are talking about still remains in our 21st century, and we have to address these challenges, which will require, as I stated, a renewed commitment of human rights and a holistic approach, and recognize that there is interdependence between the human rights and the global issues, and not try to intermingle these issues and miss the bigger fish, right? Rather concentrate on the very entity or the very cultural ethos or the very value on which the whole human rights was based on, right? With this, I think that I'll come to the conclusion where I'll try to sum up all the points which I have dealt in throughout the session. So in conclusion, the history of human rights, as you must understand, is a long and a complex one. But the story of progress and hope is still there, right? From the earliest civilization to the modern era, these humans have sought to define and protect their rights.
So you are not
Sir,
audible.
please unmute your mic.
Shit. How long was I muted?
So few seconds only.
Conclusion.
So I want to check that who is attentive. Where was I?
Conclusion.
Sorry.
The conclusion
We are
part.
in the
The
conclusion.
conclusion part.
Okay.
The
Thank
conclusion
you.
part.
Yeah, yeah. Only the conclusion part, right? Just a second. Somebody saying ancient. Bro, I've come to conclusion. Fine. So, in conclusion, I was talking about the how actually this story of the history of human rights how long and how complex it is, but the story of progress, and it's still a hope. But then we have to be optimistic to maybe the process how it is engaged. Like I was talking about how from the earliest civilization to the modern era, these humans have sought to define and protect their rights and freedom. And the development of these international and the regional human rights system have actually helped to establish the universal framework by protecting the human rights that is recognized and even respected by the government around or across the world, right? However, as I already stated, that there are significant challenges that remain, in be it rising of authoritarianism, the impact of the technology on human rights, and the effect of climate change and environmental degradation. Now, to address these challenges, I'm not going to repeat it again, we actually need to have some strong commitments and adopt a holistic approach and actually recognize the interdependence of these rights and do not intermingle into it. And ultimately, these protection of human rights is very essential because just to create a just and peaceful environment throughout the world. As far as UDHR is concerned, it states that recognition of inherent dignity and equal and inalienable rights of all the members of human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace of the world. So, by continuing the work together, the protection and the promotion of human rights, we can create a better world for ourselves and even for the future generation, right? Uh, or we can say we can think of a sustainable growth. Sorry, Uzair. Sorry, Kajol. Yeah. So what I was saying is, we can adopt a sustainable growth, which can also benefit the society at large. And at the end, we can say that the due process or the rule of law is actually saved. And if you talk about the Indian perspective, I personally believe that we where of those who are regarded as a very nice country who is very much democratic in itself, but then I'm not going into the clutches of it, but the things or the series of events which we are, maybe I, me, you, everybody is going through, is very much afraid of the coming future of the human rights. But then we youth are the saviors of the right. And as a student of law or as a student of human rights, I personally believe that it's not me and you or the one who are the protector. Any of you can actually be the savior of it and maybe raise the voice. There are still ray of hope. Let's be optimistic that we cannot leave everything at the hand of the person who is a dictator maybe, and trying to rule it the way he wants to rule. But then we always have a voice, and that has to be respected, since it's not he who is giving us the right, it's us who is giving up them the right. So we have chosen them, they have not chosen us. With this, I think that I have fairly tried to cover all the aspects of human rights. Maybe throughout the session, not only it's mine session, but then other sessions will also help you to understand the realities of it. Then maybe some of the stakeholders who are actually working on grounds, they will maybe try to help you out to reach to the reality. And since I have dealt about the maybe the theoretical aspect and the historical aspect, but then they are going to deal about the realities and the practical aspect of it. So I hope I have tried to make a perspective. Now with this, I really thank you all to have very patience hearing. And I'm sorry that I interjected those who were trying to ask questions. Now the floor is open. I think not only me, Uzair, other persons can also take all the questions, and one by one we'll try to figure out that all possible or the viable solutions can come up to maybe to suit your understanding if possible. With this, I would like to thank you, and this session has come to an end. Yeah. Uzair and Rian, could you please take forward the questions?
Sure, sir.
I hope
Before
I have
taking
made myself
questions,
clear.
I have a little announcement. Uh,
Yes, please.
I want to let you know all that tomorrow I will be sharing attendance in the group, and based on this attendance, I will be assigning assignments to you everyone. And as we have been very flexible with timings, I we prefer weekends as most of the students are free. Their studies won't be disturbed. So please make sure or ensure your presence and mark your attendance tomorrow to ensure your assignment work. Please go ahead, Mr. Pranav sir. So
Yeah.
if anyone have question, please raise your hand. Okay. Okay. Aditi, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So first of all, my question is about how you dealt with the evolutionary process of the human rights. And do correct me if I'm wrong. So, as per my vantage, you went about talking about the evolution process of human rights, and they were kind of more predominantly skewed towards as if they were emanating from the Western jurisprudence and the philosophers. And as far as what I can gauge, that there are that these natural rights, human rights that you talked about in your discourse, they can be actually traced back to the ancient Indian civilization. So, what are your thoughts on the same?
I'm sorry I missed you in between. I got a call. So just maybe again, just in a brief, you can let you know. I like maybe I lost the in the conversation. So you want to
Let
know
me
that?
answer.
Yeah,
Should
yeah,
I?
please, please. Yeah, yeah, please,
Uh,
please, please.
Actually, Aditi, you are right. When we trace the sign of human rights given to the public, we get back to that Persian or Syrian empire, what we call that code of Hammurabi. So the India's Indus Valley civilization and the Hammurabi's that civilization, the Persian civilization, the Babylonian empire, we call that. So they have many things in common. So they have laws in common, they have language in common. So yeah, you are right. The initiative of human rights can be traced back to the Babylonian empire, the code of Hammurabi, and the Indus Valley civilization. Since we do not know the actual language, or we cannot translate their laws, but we have something in common to the Hammurabi code, as the language of that Indus Valley civilization resemble with the Babylonian empire, and we can track the law of that empire, the Babylonian empire, that they have inscribed their certain laws on the finger, like what we call them, black stones. So yeah, you are right. So anyone next want any? Anushka, Aditi, I think that was satisfying. Aditi.
Yes, sir. But I was talking actually about the Vedas and how they are having that cornerstone of human rights and all. So I was touching about that area, about Indian civilization per se and the Vedas aspect in that.
Oh, I went for the Indus Valley civilization, just like Mohenjo-daro. Mr. Pranav can answer very well in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
regard.
I'll try to just maybe I'm trying to figure out what your question is. So what are you trying to relate? Like, can you please
Uh,
come with your question again, please?
right, sir. So, as per as what you went about in your entire discourse, you mentioned about various Western philosophers and their jurisprudence. And so, I was trying to connect it with the Indian aspect in that, wherein human rights and natural rights are the touchstone of many Indian ancient Vedas. So, I was just asking about your views on how you perceive Indian role in in the emergence of human rights per se.
Yeah, that's very nice of you to maybe question it, because maybe I could say from my perspective that Vedas are actually the grand norm, right, of the human rights, because we get to learn a lot from how things has to be, right? It teaches basically about the way of life. So I personally feel that you have a very genuine question to ask on that how far or how good it is relatable to the concept of the human right. Though since we cannot trace each and everything and make it relatable to it, I'm sorry that that point missed it from our end. But then it was good of you to take it out from your end. And I personally also believe that yes, Vedas and like there are some of the intricacies to it. There are some clause. If I talk about the Manusmriti and all, there are some loopholes to it. But then the perspective of or the maybe the logic from it derives is actually very much rational to the modern or the form of human rights perspective. We're actually deriving it from the political or the modern thinkers of the Roman philosophers. But then India also have a very stake, because we were the Indians who gave the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? The whole
Right,
world
right, sir.
family, right? I hope that makes sense.
Thank you so much, sir, for your perspective. Thank you.
Yeah.
So moving to the
Next
next,
question, please.
Anushka.
Good evening, sir.
Anushka,
I'm
is it?
Anushka Taplial, and I'm currently a political science honor student. I would like to ask that code of Hammurabi that we talked about. It was basically biased towards
Sorry,
women.
code of.
Hammurabi that we you just talked about. It was basically biased towards women. They didn't assign the basic rights to women that they assigned to men. So, sir, how we can say that it was related to human rights, because somewhat it is violating the fundamental rights of a woman as well.
Sorry, I missed your point. Code of what?
Hammurabi.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
so, sir,
think, yeah.
it
Yeah,
was somewhat biased towards women,
yeah.
since it talks about only the conduct for women and not for males as such. Like they're basically being biased towards female, but like
Yeah, yeah, I get you.
there is this privilege that man get.
Right, right, right. See, like if you are going to maybe talk about maybe in that perspective, so patriarchy has always been there, right? Uh, so I cannot maybe justify that why I'm talking about it, because it was there in the mindset. But then like now it's we are talking about the feminism and the other movements that Me Too movements and other things which have come at a stage where we are now at a point we can talking about it. But then it is very I cannot neglect the fact that there was a sense of discrimination against women, and then like it was never a situation of ideal. Even now in 21st century you cannot say that women have the complete right. There might be complete right in the laws. I mean, but then in the reality, you and me still know that how still you are struggling to maybe take your pointer out. But then I really appreciate that you have taken out that point. I also admit that. But then there has never been an ideal state where which we talk about the egalitarian society, which we are maybe idealizing about. But then there was always a loophole, which maybe yes, I accept that you are right. But then apart from that, how critical it was that even the basic rights was not available to any other person. It was that stage where the people essentially recognized and realized their potential, and then slowly or gradually they started to get their rights in bits and pieces. I hope that makes sense and answers to your query.
Thank you, sir. So, one more question I have. Can I?
Yes.
So, what is the basic difference between human rights, fundamental rights, and natural rights?
Okay, that's very nice of you to ask. So just to give you a broad idea of it, human rights is actually a very, what I'm talking about is grand norm. Grand norm is something from where you derive the energy, or you that is the main origin or the main source. Similarly, natural rights are the basic rights which you derive from the nature. Initially, if you remember, people used to worship sun god, moon god, rain. So these were something which were very natural, and nobody actually categorized in different forms. But then, with this phase, with the sense of modernization, with the sense of realization of what has to be categorized with what, these rights started to prevail, like fundamental rights. Fundamental right also means as a basic right, but then since all are synonymous to each another, but when you try to put in a hierarchy, human rights will prevail overall, right? Like for that matter, in India we have fundamental right, guaranteed in our constitution from article 12, right? We have state, we have fundamental right of freedom of speech and expression, right? So we have all set of fundamental rights which have been granted, but then there still might be some fundamental, or there might be some human rights issue that might be missing out of that, right? So human rights is a umbrella term, and these rights are the subsets which actually try to fit into the concept of human right. I hope that makes a logical deduction of these synonymous terms, which are often very, you know, uh, feels like very confusing, and feels like these are the same aspect of the bigger thing. I hope that
Thank you,
Sure.
makes,
sir.
yeah.
Hanatu Jega, can you please open your mic and ask the question?
Yes,
Jega.
thank you, sir. Based on the question that was asked, I wanted to confirm if when you say human rights, do you mean, okay, are you headed at like this whole thing? Are you headed as at the fundamental rights or the basic rights, or I'm sorry, I don't know.
I didn't get your
No, no,
question.
no
I'm sorry.
problem.
Maybe I'm. Yeah. What is it, Rehan? Could you please brief me?
Hanuta, please take your time and ask again. We are moving forward to Suparja. Suparja, can you please ask?
No, no. I want to maybe understand her query. I'm not getting it. What is he saying?
Maybe she
She's
was
not
trying.
understanding that.
She was
Okay,
hesitating bit. Or if you want, Hanuta, if you want to ask again, please go ahead.
okay.
Hanuta.
I mean, when like this whole program, this whole session, when you're referring to okay, human rights, fighting for human rights, are you headed at towards the fundamental human rights, or what exactly are we headed at?
What
Okay.
exactly I'm being headed at?
She
Yeah,
wants to know that when we all interns are going to write and advocate the human right violations, maybe Hanuta, am I
Okay.
right? Hanuta, can you ratify
yes,
this?
yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
Oh,
I
okay.
have earlier announced that I will have assignments for all of you tomorrow in the group. So please be ready to collect it, and then we will go ahead with that human right violation reporting and writing these all. Thank you, Hanuta. Very important question. Thank you. Uh,
I hope that
Suparja,
answers your query. Yeah. Next,
Suparja,
please.
please go ahead.
I have a initial question to my mind. According to you,
Kindly be loud.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, sir. According to you, does globalization advance human rights or not?
Yeah. I think the very concept of LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization, was
Yes, sir.
a very crucial time to actually connect throughout the world, right? We never had a process, or maybe we were in the process to connect people throughout the world, because human right is not a thing which is to be granted to one country or another country. It's a universal concept, right? So I think I very much feel that globalization is a very innovative and a very appreciable concept to connect people at large. But then, about the some of the, again, it's very generic thing that everything has a pros and cons to it. like if you maybe deal about the on it on an international relations perspective, but there are some political entities to it which have a different clutch altogether. But then, as a general concept, I personally believe that yes, globalization was one of those achievement which I must appreciate, which connected the world and made uh, every other person realize that sky's the limit. You can do any other thing if you just need to think, and you're there, right? So I personally believe that it is a very good footstep to march towards the one form of attaining human rights. Your perspective, maybe you I am not able to justify about how you do it, but then the connect or the approach to it was a stepping forward thing which helped to pave the way to attain those rights. I hope that makes sense and answers your question query.
Yeah, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Neha, please go ahead. Nihal. Nihal, are you there?
Uh, Good evening, sir.
Hi, very good evening.
Sir, am I audible first of all?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, fine. So, sir, I wanted to know that, as you mentioned, that the concept of patriarchy has always existed in the society. I wanted to know the practice of slavery, for example, it has existed from time immemorial. Did that shape the development of human rights, or did at the time when human rights were developing, did they not consider that as an issue?
Did they not consider at the time as a misuse?
Yes, sir. Did
Okay.
the concept of slavery influence the development of human rights? Because as we know, the concept of human
Yeah,
rights came after 17th century.
right.
So long before that, the concept of slavery did exist, and even after that, the concept was very much prevalent.
That.
So did they not address it as seriously as they should have?
Yeah, yeah, that's very nice of you to point it out. I I still believe that slavery exists now. Just it's a modern form of slavery. Like if you talk about the corporate world, like there is a friend of mine who's actually working day and night. He like he comes at 3 a.m. in the morning and he again goes to maybe 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning again back, right? That's the whole process. And even on Sunday he works. So this is a modern form of slavery, because you are actually in a stage where you are compelled to do maybe just because of some materialistic thing. For that matter, money is like he is being paid 1.5 lakh. So that money is driving him towards it. So slavery is such a blot to maybe Indian or maybe any other perspective. So we are into the clutches of it any other time. But then it was a very sad on the part of the maybe the government or maybe the political thinkers or maybe the lawmakers to actually not recognize it from the very beginning. There to fight slavery was always a challenge. But then again, I have, like, since we are talking about the human rights perspective, we have to admit that though we have come a long way throughout it, but then there are still traces of slavery which are seen in different other forms. But then we have come a long way to actually fight it and be vocal about it and ask for their ramifications, ask for their rights and their violations, and maybe picturize it throughout the world. This is a liberty which we have got thanks to the you know uh, the laws which have prevailed as of now, which actually helps you to ask question, right, and maybe fight for it. So yeah, I think that this is a blot which has always been, and maybe sometimes untouched, because they knew that this is not going to end, right? There are some realities which will always prevail. Like you fight it to the end, but then it will be there. You cannot say that you have completely stated it null and void. Like for that matter, corruption, you can never end it. It's in the blood. You can never end it. You can maybe try to slightly dismantle it, or maybe try to scrutinize or do it in a way, but then it will always be there, that you cannot remove it. Similarly, there are traces of every other aspects will of human rights violations which will be seen, I don't know, for endless time. But then we have to feel uh, hopeful about what times we had been and what times we are at and what time we can be. Right? As a student of human rights, you all must take out some of the very, like like I talked about a modern form of slavery. There are still existing human rights violation on which people are not talking about, right? So it is your duty, it's my duty, it's every one of us duty to actually point fingers on it and then question the very existence of it and try to crash it down from the scratch, right? It is you who is going to do it. Nobody will guide you, right? Nobody will maybe commit out on it because it's for their benefit, right? I hope that makes slightly sense of what you wanted to. Maybe I could not answer you completely what your question was, but then this is what I can maybe come up to this stage. Is it all right?
Yes, sir, definitely. Yes, sir. It was a great sense of direction that you've given us, and yeah, it was a very well framed answer.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure. Anyone else?
Okay, Binta, please go ahead. Benita.
Yes, sir. So talking about
Finally.
slavery,
Yeah.
finally. So talking about
Yeah.
slavery, like in the modern era, where qualified people, they work in a firm or a company. So some people they're asked to like enter into a contract
We
wherein they
lost you.
are
We
engaged
lost you.
for.
Please come again. I'm sorry.
I was saying that in the modern era, where qualified people they want to work in a firm or a company, and wherein they are asked to enter into a contract for a term of like 1 year or 2 years, 3 years. So does that count under bonded labor, or like is it though they do it willingly because they had no other option due to unemployment and all of these things that is going on in the world, but then does this actually count under bonded labor?
That's very nice and opinionative of you to think like way. Like, yeah, I think that, but then just to maybe I can talk on the law perspective and then on the social perspective. As far as law is concerned, I'm sorry, we cannot maybe on the face of it say that this is a form you're talking about, that though why government and these organizations are taking these contractual job is, the logic behind is they need not have to pay the PA, DA and other allowances which any other government employees are getting, and they always have a fear that after 1 year if I'm not doing anything productive they'll remove me, and in that fear they'll always do a very smart and very healthy work which these permanent staffs are actually not doing from their end. So it is just for the benefit of the government. They are trying to maybe misuse us, right? Because we are not getting the due credit. There's always a sense of insecurity that what if I have been asked to move after a point of time, what, because the recession which is actually troubling all of us, all of our youngsters, who, like, for me as a student of law, I have completed my bachelor's BLLB, then I've completed my master's, I'm going to complete my PhD. Still there is a sense of insecurity that what next. Like, I'm working at National Human Rights Commission, and for that matter, just to relate it, I have like, I'm at a contractual position, like straight down 1 year after, in the August 31st, I don't know that if they are going to keep me or not. I know I have a potential, I know I can work, I know how good I can be for them. So it's their loss, but then you are clutched into their system and you are hopeless and you cannot do anything. Still, I have a hope that they'll continue since I'm working good on their end, and I have made a point that I can sustain there, right? But then there's always a sense of insecurity. So it was very smart of you to ask this. Yes, or like, since I talked about law, it's not possible, but then, yeah, on a social reality, yes, it is a form. I
And
genuinely believe that, like, yes, yes, yes.
like after the completion of that contractual period, if what if they are taken their jobs? So is it their violation of their human rights to earn their livelihood again?
See, what happens is these governments are very smart. What they do is, whenever they will maybe release some of the advertisement, they will say that anyone who has an experience of 1 year in any government or contractual job are eligible to such and such jobs. So they have a domain, right, where they cannot say that we have completely neglected you, right? They always leave that loophole where they can resist. For that matter, like, I'm talking about the Agniveer, right? They were told that for 4 years you are going to be stayed with us, but then you are going to get pension, or maybe those 4 years will act as a work of experience and that will help you to gaze in any government job. So they always make something, a line between the violation and the right, so that they can be the scapegoat, for that matter, and you cannot challenge it on the face of it. This is the very smart game that the government is playing. They're very smart, like, I also cannot do it very much. I am working in the Human Rights Commission, but then I know the realities of it, but then I'm still helpless to work on it. So this is the stake, that today I'm taking a session on human right, but I cannot protect my human right. This is a very questionable thing to talk about. I hope that
Yes, yes, it is an
I have
ironic
become.
situation again. Uh, Again, so like as an activist of human rights, what can you suggest, like as as our mentor, what do you suggest for this as a middle solution for the cunning behavior of the government and the pathetic situation of the citizen?
See, there's no straitjacket formula. You have to be very cautious to it. What you can do is, first, you should realize your potential, what you are, right? There are n number of vacancies, there are n number of jobs for that matter. You do some meritorious work on yourself, and definitely you are going to be within those 5% and you are going to get that job. What about the 95%? What they are going to do? If you have a strong feeling of your sense of security, that your credibility, you will excel in any other way, any other form you are going to do, right? It is you who is going to realize your potential. It's not they who is going to realize it, right? So if not A works, it will either C or D. Anything will work at the end of the day, because you have to realize, and if you have realized your potential, you'll excel. For that matter, in my case, if I am kicked out of NHRC, I have this company, right? I have created this alternative. This I can be not helpless. So you always have to have a B plan, right, in your life. There's yeah, like, it's a very rare thing that what you're planning of, you are actually going to get it. It's a luck. General rule is, you are planning something, you're getting something. You get me? So this is the plain thing you need to understand. But then you have to always be optimistic of your thought process, and then approach in the direction you feel suitable of. In any other field you are going to do, you're going to excel. Just have confidence in yourself, and always feel yourself as a student of human right. You're going to take care of any other human rights violation which is happening near you. It's not like any other police personnel or the public authority is responsible to it. Under section 100 of the IPC, you are also stated that if you are allowed to take or maybe actions for those, let's for example, anyone is killing anyone, right? You have the right to ask or seek protection or protect them. So you have the right to protect anyone else also. So for that matter, start individualizing yourself, start realizing your potentials, and in any other form you see human rights violation, start reporting it. This is at the end you can do, but then who are at the top, they'll always rule, but you have to have, there is a concept of survival of the fittest. You have to survive, as Charles Darwin says. Touched with your way of thinking it. So it's good to hear a very healthy conversation from you. I hope I have tried to justify your situation and made a point clear in your mind.
Yes, somewhat I'm like I got it what you tried to say. Also, I have a small like kind of question only. As we talk about human rights, so everyone is like human rights it belong to individual as a whole. So belonging to a legal fraternity, when we talk about the human rights, we just not talk about the human rights of the victim, but we also talk about the human rights of the accused.
Accused.
So, what do you have to say about that? Because whenever we talk about the rights and all of this, everything revolves around the rights of victim, but nothing comes to the plate. Nothing comes in the plate of the accused. And wherever, as we as a lawyer, we have to protect their rights as well. So, like, what do you have to say about this?
That's very nice of you to ask. I think we have a very nice panel of interns. So, you cannot bluntly say that the accused is not, given any protection, right? There are laws to it. For example, if I talk about the person who is in the prison, there is a Prisons Act, right? That how he is to be treated, and the basic human right has to be given to him, right? Recently, just to quote an example to it, there was an international conference which NHRC was organizing on CSAM, that is child sexual abuse material. There is a very nice debate going on by the DSP of Delhi, and he was saying that while we go through the materials of sexual abuse of children, what about us? The victim gets whatever due stake it has to get, or the accused goes away. But what are we as a middleman who are actually dealing about it every other day? We are forced to see maybe the nude pictures of the children. What about their rights? So there are. It's not that the concern is not there. There is always a concern about it, but then there is always a law. But then you have to fight for the mental realities of it, which is always on the higher side of the victim. Like they get a benefit of doubt that the victim should not be more victimized, but then it is the accused who has to also realize that he is guilt at point, and maybe in a form of punitive way he has to accept the realities of harshness. I feel that this is one form I can maybe explain, but then there is always a human right of an accused, and which is also provided in the constitution as well as other provisions of the act, right?
Thank you, sir. We have Mr. Ahmed with a
Yeah, I think
question.
that this is enough. I can take the questions. I'll take a pause, or maybe Uzair or anyone of you could take the questions because I'm feeling very
Sure, sir.
thirsty and
Sure,
my
sir.
bottle is also over.
Okay, sir. Sir, you may leave, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, sir,
sir.
for joining.
Thank you, Vinita. I hope I have made a clarity. Yeah. Please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Uzair, are you there? Mr. Uzair Ansari, are you there?
Yes, 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 Ryan,
Okay.
please.
Now we are going to
Uzair,
take
please take the
questions.
questions.
Yes, yes, we are on it, sir.
Mr. Ahmed, go ahead, please. Ahmed,
Yes, sir.
please go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. My question is just let me say part of my thinking. I've been thinking that like, is there any historical event, or let me just put it this way, like, what is the historical evolution and a conceptual difference between this, talking about fundamental rights and human rights, and how do these differences impact the protection and promotion of human dignity and freedom? Or let me just put it like, particularly, can human rights be truly universal, like given the diversity of cultural values and practices across different societies, and how can we reconcile the tension between the universalism and cultural relativism in the promotion and protection of human rights? worldwide.
Sure, Mr. Ahmed. So as I have get from the question, you are asking about the universalism of human rights and promoting of culture as the right of individuals
Yes, like
internationally.
yes, exactly.
Sure. So yeah, promoting culture is the basic right of any nationality. So I think you cleared yourself that everyone have right to promote their culture, and I don't think so there's any kind of constitution in the world making barriers or creating hurdles in between any culture. Yeah, maybe there may be some states doing that, but not at an open level. So uh, Mr. Ozer, what do you think of it? Hello.
Yes, yes, Ryan. Actually, I was not able to hear that properly. Please, if you could relate it further, please
Okay.
proceed.
Mr. M was asking for the promotion of culture as the basic right of any nation. So he was asking that, and I just answered, yeah, it is that every nation has right to promote their culture and promote their language. Even we have in the Constitution of Pakistan, in the fundamental articles, in the first from Article 8 to Article 27, we have these all rights enshrined in our Constitution, and same goes for the Indian Constitution, that every race and every that nation and every man has this right
Let's
to enjoy
Ryan,
their
let's take the
culture.
next question, please.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
that was enough. Okay, let's proceed to next question.
Mm-hmm. Ma'am Upsana, can you please go ahead with your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, can I ask a very controversial question, very controversial
Yes,
topic
go
here?
ahead. Yes,
Not
you have
that
this
much.
privilege. Go ahead, please.
Okay.
Okay, 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 go
Okay,
ahead.
we will try to tolerate you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, sir. So, I'm talking about all of us are talking about human rights. So, in the previous year, I was writing a paper about the Rohingya Muslims. So, what is their human rights? They are stateless. What is your opinion about these Rohingya Muslims and the human rights of them?
Mm, it is.
Now
Uzair,
it's
if
a
you
very
want to,
yeah.
Mr. Uzair,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir.
Like
any
yes, this
anything
is a very
regarding Rohingya
the thing
Muslims?
is, yes, exactly. I was able to hear that properly. This Rohingya matter is a very controversial one and is very sensitive one. And as she has a question about is she willing to know she willing to know our opinion. So is that so?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It was totally brutal of that Burmese military, right? It was a military dictator. I don't think. I sometimes also think or allege like Jan Suki is also had somewhere been involved in that all those cases like how she has been played in international criminal court. Whatever happened in that course of time during those violence which occurred with Rohingya Muslims, like masses have been killed brutally, raped, and tortured. it was such a horrific situation. Like we cannot even think about that. Probably, if I talk about Rohingya, I got some kind of goosebumps. If you could think about that, it is just too horrific. It is just like we cannot condemn any with most of our will, or we condemn such atrocities on on those Rohingya native Muslims. They were being killed so brutally. Okay, so I think it is not only my opinion, or maybe it must be a topic of concern. We must be talking about those people. They were tortured in such a horrific way. We should be keep talking and discussing about those people, and try to compensate as much as possible. Like recently, there have I came to know about a massive fire in those camps, where they were housed in Bangladesh, right? Or I sometimes wonder if God is showing their wrath on those people, right? If first they were brutally tortured, and they are somehow managed to flee and living in such a vulnerable situation, still they are facing so much. And this is such a sensitive one. Okay, uh, uh, like uh, I
Exactly,
too
sir.
condemn this thing.
Mhm.
Just to
So,
add on to it, Rehan, I think I would like
Upsana,
to interject.
okay. Go ahead, sir, please.
Yeah, yeah. So,
So,
who asked this question?
Upsana,
Upsana.
yeah.
Sami.
Okay.
Should I
So
or
yeah, Upsana.
shall
See, yeah.
Yes, sir.
okay? Upsana, being a
Just a quick
Pakistani,
answer to it. Maybe
replying.
Uzair have given. Yeah.
Yes,
Please,
sir.
please, Rehan. Yeah.
Yeah, being a Pakistani,
You were saying
replying such
something.
kind of
Sorry.
question, you may expect something from me. So I'm not going to talk about any such kind of place. But I condemn any kind of human rights violation going on the globe. Just like when the whole Indian people condemn China, the brutality they are showing on the Muslim in China. So being a member of this country, uh, the state do not condemn it. They have their own means, and they have their own means with their relative government. But
This is because of
being
their
a
foreign
human rights
policy, not
representative,
probably the amount of loan they have taken from the China. It is yes, yes.
I'm not going that deep.
I think
Exactly,
we
she
should not
asked
get
for
into the
Burma.
details of
She
this.
asked for Burma,
Yeah.
but I'm just generally talking about any human rights violation going in this world. But basically, I am in Pakistan, and I am in that place where Hindus are in majority. I sit with Hindus. I go on outing with Hindus. I go Hindu friends. I have a lot of Hindu friends, but I know there are not that much that media is showing. But yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes it is, and it's reality that sometimes in India there's so generally when we talk about human rights violation, and we are working on an international plan, and this internship we have international students, so we are going to point out each and every human rights violation going through or going on any part of the world. Hope I've answered Mr. Miss Upsana.
Yeah, sir.
Upsala,
I
that
got my
was such
answer.
a
But
Upsala, I must appreciate that question again. It was such a sensitive one, and we must be very much concerned with Rohingya people. And as an organization, we also keep we keep on helping refugees and dealing people taking shelter, political asylums in India.
yeah, sir.
Just to add on to it, Upsana, just like since this has become very sensitive thing now, it's uh, when you talk about the refugees, like on the very word only, वो शरणार्थी हैं, right? They have come to maybe seek asylum, and when they get it, they become a refugee, right?
Yes.
So it's very obvious that the right will not be same as they used to get in their land, and they were not getting the due right. That's why only they have migrated from there to here, right? So the displaced person. So now they are at the mercy of the person who is keeping them, right? They're at the receiving state. So it's very obvious that the situation of the refugees are not good. If you talk about the Rohingya Muslims, it's worst, right? If you talk about the refugees who are doing very good, these are the Tibetan refugees who are setting an example throughout the world that how these refugees are. I have remained in Dharamsala for 1 month just to settle down and study about the Tibetan refugees. They work so good and they have their own, system. They run a parallel government, right? They have a government in exile. They set an example that how refugee can also sustain. They have their own yellow card, they have their green card, they have their own work profile. They have their judiciary, they have their every other function or the organization India is having, right? It's the maybe the soft power of His Holiness Dalai Lama, but then these other refugees are there at a very miserable state. Be it the Afghan refugees, be it the Sri Lankan Tamils, be it the East Pakistan, the Chakmas refugees, be it any other refugees. Recently, they have come from Ukraine, the Ukraine. These all refugees are their life is at a stake, and getting a very basic right is a challenge, right? So maybe we should not categorize one sect. Every other refugee is at a stake, or maybe his human right is at a stake of violation. There are some exceptions like Tibetan, right? I hope that makes sense.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right, let's proceed to next question, please. Let's take next.
Maybe Nihal raised his hand earlier. Nihal, have you another question?
No, sir, that was my mistake. Sorry.
Okay, okay. So maybe this is the end of the session.
Are we
And
done with the questions?
yes, sir. Only
We
F.
had too
Great.
many people raising their hands, but they in the meanwhile they left this meeting. Let's take someone like I wanted to talk with Anas. If Anas is there, Anas, would you please unmute your mic? I was just noticing you. Like, hello, Anas.
I think he's not. He's not
Are you
there.
talking about Taban Anis?
No, no, we are not talking about Taban Anis. I'm talking about Anas Dhoshiwala.
No, sir. He's not there.
All right,
He's not
let's
there.
all
Let's
right
move.
then.
Okay.
Okay then.
Hey, I
So
So
think Anas is there. Anas is there. Anas, why aren't you unmuting yourself? I can see you in the participant list. But then, ठीक है, if you don't want to come in, we can come to a conclusion.
yeah, I think it's
Proceed, please,
too
Rahim.
much for today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Uzair, please go ahead for the ending note.
like yes, thank you so much, Pranav. Thank you so much, Ryan, for just cooperating managing things, and Pranav sir, thank you so much for making this possible, and to all who are still with us, tolerating to till this very moment. Thank you so much for tolerating us for this very long, and maybe we have gained something substantial and really productive at the end. So with this, thank you so much and have a good night.
Yeah, yeah. I hope I have settled down the queries which were raised. If not, then the sessions are left.
Sure. We can leave now.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you, sir.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.